Hello friends, welcome to Sunday Summit. I'm Regan Barassa. If you follow me on Instagram, you've known me for a while as Pace My Heart. Um, on Instagram, I sort of detailed my health journey, which encompassed, well, I've now had 18 surgeries. The recent one was skin removal surgery after massive weight loss. And today will be a little bit of an update on that as I'm 4 weeks out from that surgery. I'm also going to talk about something that I shared this week on Instagram, which was that I had a blood clot. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. Thank you for joining me here on my channel, Pace Your Heart. I do this Sunday Summit just to sort of share my journey in a little bit longer format. And hopefully we just kind of take this time together, and I share things that I've learned, and I hope it helps anybody and any challenges that they might go through. So we'll start maybe with the blood clot, because I did get a lot of questions, and thank you to a lot of people who reached out with just care and consideration and that type of thing. So I guess what happened was on Monday, I was just putting on lotion like I do every day after a shower. And I touched a spot on my inner right arm around my elbow. And I realized it was quite tender, and I could feel kind of a raised mass there. And I thought, oh, that's a little different. But it wasn't, I didn't feel it unless I touched it. And it wasn't kind of impeding me in any way. So I just sort of noted it and kind of moved on with my day. Tuesday morning when I woke up, I did the same thing. I showered, but at this point I was starting to be able to feel it in my arm without touching it. And when I touched it to put on lotion, it was extremely tender. And I realized that the spot was now quite raised, was turning kind of red, purple in color, and was probably about 4 times the size that I had noticed on Monday. So I went to an appointment that I had that morning, which just happened to be located close to the Foothills Hospital. And that's where I normally go for all my, cardiac emergencies. So they know my chart fairly well. We are here in Alberta on electronic charts, so they do get it everywhere, but I don't know. It always seems easier if you just go to the center where they have more records on you. So I thought, in an abundance of caution, that I would go in. I wondered if it might be something like a blood clot, but it seemed really far post-surgery, and that's usually a post-surgery thing that happens. And usually they present in a leg as well, and this was in the crook of my arm, basically. So I didn't really know if that's what it could be, and I'm not a doctor, so that's why you go in. And the triage nurse said as well, she's like, that it seems like it's really far past surgery, but it does seem sort of possible that it could be a blood clot. So I think it's very good that you came in, and you should get it checked. And for those of you who don't know much about blood clots, what can happen is they can break away, and they can either, if they go to your heart or your brain, they can be really catastrophic. And I particularly have spoken about this before, but I had a friend that post-surgery, who was a nurse and was recovering, had a blood clot and passed away, unfortunately, very suddenly. So the things that you can do to mitigate it after surgery is really get up and get moving, because blood circulation helps get that blood flowing so it's not sitting and pooling. That's also why they put those compression things sometimes on your legs if you're not able to be as mobile. And then they give you injections in your arm or your stomach or your leg or butt or whatever, of a blood thinner, quite often for a day or 2 post-surgery, just to kind of mitigate those risks. And that is something that I did post-surgery in LA. I think I might have had 7 shots following surgery. And I didn't have any issues. I definitely was up and walking. And yeah, so this seemed all quite unusual. But I did get in and I did get seen. And the ER doc that saw me said that he thought the chances of it being a blood clot were fairly low. He thought it was more likely that it would be an infection or maybe just some pooling of fluid, that type of thing, but that they would do blood work. And by the time I had seen the ER doc, it had been several hours and my arm was really throbbing. Like, I can't even tell you. My whole arm right up to my shoulder. And I was starting to have some tingling sensations in my hands. So it really started to progress pretty rapidly over the course of 4 or 5 hours. So they drew blood work and decided to do an ultrasound. And in the ultrasound, they confirmed there was about a 4 centimeter blood clot. But very fortunate for me, in a fairly superficial vein. So they took the time to check all my arteries and that type of thing and make sure that they weren't missing sort of a bigger source, which thankfully there didn't seem to be. The reason why, we don't know. It really stumped the doc. He was pretty surprised. He said, 1, they don't normally present in an arm. 2, it's quite far post-surgery to sort of have any correlation. His only guess on it was maybe that I'm a hard poke. So they had done a few different pokes to try and run an IV for surgery. And he said maybe that was a spot that they had tried, and for whatever reason that vein had just gotten irritated, because it didn't end up being the place where my IV was run. But he said maybe just a needle poke in there had just irritated over time and took that long to present. And that our bodies do weird and wacky things when we are recovering. There's a lot of energy going a lot of different places. And he said, that's just his best guess. He's like, I don't think we'll ever know. He goes, this has really surprised him, to be honest. The good thing about it is that we caught it, and it gave me very obvious signs. I tried to show a picture. It's sort of hard to show in a picture, but it was quite raised and palpable. And of course the pain definitely let me know. Today is the first day that I can't feel a mass there, and it's I can just barely feel the area when I touch it. So it is clearing up pretty good. Normally, if they do discover something like this, you would do another sort of 5-7 days, a course of blood thinners and be done. But for me, because I have such a history of heart issues and this being upper extremity, so closer to my heart, in an abundance of caution, we're doing 15 days. And you can do oral or you can do injections. For me, I try to bypass anything that goes through my stomach just because I have such a finicky stomach. So I chose injections. And I gotta tell you, I don't know, I've like second guessed myself a couple of times. They're not particularly fun. They are a stingy kind of injection, not the easiest to give yourself. It's much easier when a nurse does it, or when I was in LA, my girlfriend Joanna gave them to me. The nurses showed her how to do it. And it's much easier to get an injection from another person than to do it to yourself. And there's a bit of a technique to it in that you want to kind of stab yourself quickly and then inject it sort of slowly. So the first one that I did in my thigh, I kind of did a hit and a miss. I didn't have my glasses on, which was probably not the greatest choice. And so I felt like, I don't think I've got it in deep enough. So I pulled it out and then I put it back in. And then I did it a little too fast. And anyways, I've given myself a good bruise there, and kind of a raised lump, which is still there today. And that was Wednesday, I guess, was the first one that I gave myself. Since then, I've been alternating in my stomach, and my daughter, who's a nurse, gave me some good suggestions. And so no bruising. It still stings going in, but I'm getting through it. I still have, I think, 11 more days. So yeah, I'll be glad to be done. That's for sure. I'm certainly not cut out to be an IV drug user, I don't think, if I can't just even stab myself in some like soft tissue. So maybe that's the good news. Not that I felt like I was a big risk for it, but anyways, it was a bit of an experience. It was a little bit scary, I do have to say, but I do feel very fortunate, whatever reason that this happened, that it was superficial. And the only thing I can say is that it's made me tired, in that I already felt tired, and my blood work in the hospital showed that I am a bit anemic, which probably is not a surprise given I've just had an 8-hour surgery, and the blood loss, and we saw all the tissue I gave you pictures of before. It's a little bit gruely, so my body's still working hard at getting me up to speed. So I'll follow up with my family doctor tomorrow. Just that's what they wanted me to do, the hospital, because of the blood clot, and then maybe I'll just make a bit of a plan about tracking for anemia. Several years ago, I guess after my first heart surgery, again, probably due to blood loss, I became quite anemic, and my stomach, as I've said, is quite sensitive, and I just couldn't tolerate any of the iron supplements. So I ended up doing, I think, 4 iron infusions. So it is something I want to be on top of and not let it linger, because yeah, it's not fun to feel tired all the time, and I'd like to not need to nap in the middle of the day like a toddler. So hopefully we'll get to that point. But anyways, I'm feeling really good. I'm healing well. The doctor checked all my incisions while I was at the hospital, and he's like, oh yeah, it's definitely not infection or anything like that due to your surgery. He's like, that looks like you're healing great. So that was good to have that sort of reassurance. Not that I really needed it. So I'm 4 weeks post-surgery, and I had a little celebration there on Instagram on Friday, because that meant that I could ditch the foam layer that I've had underneath my compression garment. So just one less thing to have to fiddle with. I still have 2 to 4 weeks of compression. I'll have a checkup at 6 weeks, a virtual checkup with a nurse, and another one at 3 months. So I think at the 6-week mark, we kind of decide where I'm at with fluid retention and whether I need to continue. And I've heard from people who've had plastic surgery like this that you feel just more confident being in your compression garment. It just makes you feel a little bit more secure, because I've had major reconstruction on my abdominal area, so I might still want a period of time where I'm wearing it. I do notice quite a big difference in the morning when I wake up from sleeping, and I wear my compression garments all the time except when I shower, basically, or if I'm having a massage. But so when I go to shower and I take it off, I see how much less fluid there is than, say, by the end of the day. I already notice like my stomach protrudes a little bit. I definitely notice I have pretty big indentations for sock lines. Jewelry, I notice some days by the afternoon I have to take off my rings because I just feel like they're getting snug. I get worried about them being stuck on there. So I know it looks, in the pictures that I shared, everybody, thinks it looks great, that it's, my stomach's quite flat. But I can notice quite a big difference in how it looks from morning to night. Maybe that's something that I might be able to show. I'm not sure. It might be too subtle to see in a photo, but especially wearing compression, I'm not sure if you can see it. But anyway, something that I'll think about. I did take some pictures this week in the same bikini that I wore pre-surgery. So I'm going to kind of splice those together at the end of today's summit, so you can see some before and afters. Of course, I didn't do my legs or my arms, so they're still the same, but you can see quite a distinct difference, I think, between my stomach and my breasts. And I would say that, it's probably not the ideal fit for me now for the bikini, but just to give you a real close idea of where I'm at. And you can see the scarring too, even how it's, I would say, lightening up already. It will take, in my experience with my chest scars, about 2 years to really fade in. But even within a year, it should be good. So for the next 12 months, I need to keep my scars fairly covered, so no sun. So this won't be a bikini summer for me, even if I'm feeling pretty good about the shape that I'm at, just to give the scars time to heal on their own. I think there's options to do laser to speed it up, and also red light therapy. So I don't think I would invest in lasering per se. I'm not in the public eye that I need to worry about that, but I might do something like red light therapy, because that's something that, like tanning salons and stuff offer now, red light booths, that type of thing. So that might be something affordable to do, if I feel like it. We'll see. Pain. People have asked me about pain. I would say I don't feel pain per se. I just feel the odd discomfort. So last week I shared that I wasn't wincing anymore when I sneeze or I cough. But I still feel things like when I transition. So like sitting to standing is kind of when you, basically whenever you would engage your core, that's when I feel it. And I wouldn't say that it's pain per se, but just a sensation that things are still knitting together there. I do have one little spot that's kind of funny. I accidentally scratched off just a little part that was healing, that was scabbed in my under boob, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. And that's just a place where it sits and rubs. And it's stinging today, and I put a Band-Aid on it, but I can't really make it not have pressure there. So just a very good point why you don't pick at scabs. You let them heal, because they serve a purpose to protect. And it's really like, it's so tiny. It's maybe 1/4 of an inch. It's just this tiny little spot, but just enough to kind of niggle and be irritating. So I'm sure it'll take a day or two for that to settle down. Other than that, I feel the odd, I don't know, I just call it a zinger. It's just some nerves that are regrowing, I guess. Like around my areolas, you can't even hardly see any scars there now. But the odd time I can feel some nerve sensation, which is kind of funny to me, because I could feel sensation in my nipples right after surgery. So I know a lot of people have asked, do you have any sensation? I wouldn't like it if you lose it. And I said, yeah, no, absolutely. I felt it right away. Some people say it can take a month for it to come back, but I really didn't feel like I lost mine at all. But the risk of that, I think I've read, is something like 4%. So it's really low that you lose sensation. And everybody has a different level of sensation, I guess. And only time will tell how that affects me. But yeah, no, definitely have felt sensation right from post-surgery. So that's not been an issue for me at all. What else? I guess my size, yeah. People have been curious how it's changed, how, if I'm going through clothes like crazy. And I'm not really. I had quite a variety of sizes. I think I shared, I had a bit of a weight journey this last year, and that I got a little underweight, and then I, worked at gaining weight and gaining some strength, and I put on 50 pounds and probably got a little over where I wanted to be. So I've had lots of, I have quite a bit of different sizes. I sort of have from size 2 to size 8. And I would say my size 8s are definitely all kind of saggy and baggy. But these pants that I'm wearing today are size 6, and they fit pretty much perfectly. And I'm still, I've been wearing a foam garment, which added probably half an inch to me. So I've taken that out now. But I'm still wearing compression garment, which you saw. I'm wearing from my knees, right up under my breasts. And while I don't need it for my legs, the reason I chose it is that I just found the bodysuit styles kind of cut into my legs, and I didn't really like that. And because I have so much skin on my legs, the little shorty ones, which would probably be ideal, I just feel like it emphasizes my excess skin because it fits snugger, and then you see kind of the skin bulge. So a bit of vanity there, but that's why I've chosen to wear the knee length ones, but they're harder to find. So I've had the compression garment I'm wearing today. I had the seamstress take it in. She took an inch in on either side, and she's got another one there right now. And then I bought one that was 2 sizes smaller. So I started in a 3XL, and I went down to an XL, and I've got some room to cinch on that. But this black one that she had already taken in an inch on either side, it is already on the smallest hook and eye, so I'll probably have to get her to take it in yet again. So it is changing fairly rapidly, but I don't know where I'll land. I didn't join the MNP facility to start walking or working out this week. Obviously with the blood clot, it's slowed me down a little bit, and the anemia as well. But it is hopefully something I might do this week, just to even get walking. At the 6-week mark is when I can start doing a little more than walking. And I'm trying to follow all the instructions, post-op, instructions to a T, from eating healthily to what I can and cannot do, because, this was a big investment. So I want to make sure I'm doing my part to just optimize what surgery has done for me. And part of that will be exercise, but you can't do it prematurely or you risk your results. And, I would love the freedom to not be wearing compression garments all the time, but it's just not worth it to me. I want these muscles to grow and tighten together. So yeah, they need that support. So that's what I'm giving them at the moment. But as soon as I can, I'll be increasing my activity. And at 8 weeks is when I can return to regular activity. So, like fully working out and lifting and all those types of things. So that's good. I'm very happy with where I'm at with recovery and just even what I can see progressing. I think I'm doing really, really well. I don't know if I told you this story, but it was sort of funny. One of my last appointments with Dr. Galanis, when I saw him, I said, oh, I kind of noticed that one side is shaped a little different than the other side. Is that just, am I holding water retention a little differently? And he looked at me and he smiled and he was so sweet about it. He said, oh, that's, sometimes we see your scoliosis is a little bit more prominent post-surgery. And for those of you who don't know, scoliosis is curvature in your spine. My mom has what's considered more severe in that it's S-shaped, and mine is more of a C. And I've known this since I was a kid. It's often one of the things that they check you for when you're a young kid. But I just hadn't seen it that way. So my ribs are just shaped a little differently because of my spine. And I started to laugh and he smiled because I think he wasn't sure, if I realized or how I might take that. But I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a long time since I've been able to see that, imbalance in myself. So it's just sort of like a coming home into my body, remembering, oh yeah, that's one of my idiosyncrasies. And I think I've said to you before that, this has never been a journey for perfection. And my body wouldn't let it be, even if that was what I wanted, because I'm not totally symmetrical. And I do have individual things about myself, which we all do, whether that's a mole that you like where it's placed or you wish it wasn't there, whatever it is, we have to kind of embrace who we are. And so while I'm very grateful to be unburdened of even 8 pounds of skin at this point, it's not going to look perfect, but for me, it feels much more freeing. But that being said, it's also a very big mental journey. It's not just about the physicality of it, which I've shared is a pretty big piece, but it's very big mentally in that you feel quite disconnected from the package that you've kind of gotten used to seeing yourself as. And I would say it took me I think that last appointment with Dr. Galanis was the first time I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to recognize that who I'm looking at in the mirror is going to be the new me. And even though I'm still going through a lot of healing, you almost get imprinted in your brain what you're used to seeing about yourself. And when that changes so radically, your brain doesn't really have time to catch up and process it. It's almost like you look in the mirror and you still see the old version of yourself. Even though you're looking at a different version, it just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I hope that kind of gives you some insight. But it's an amazing experience too, in that you have such capacity to change. And I think that's more than just a physical thing. It challenges you to consider all the ways that you can change in your life, emotionally and mentally and spiritually. We have great capacity for change. And for me, it gave me some clarity in other areas in my life, where I needed to be refocusing my energy, and really that I've been given this gift of a little bit more physical freedom, hopefully. And what am I going to do with this newfound body and ability to move? And I don't even know what those answers are yet, to be quite honest. But I know for right now, I'm really focused on me. And that's something I think in the past I might have felt almost ashamed to say, that I was doing that, other than you get a pass if you have a medical situation. Like with my cardiac stuff, everyone was like, of course, you have to work on getting healthy and strong. And this is almost reconnected me to that point that, okay, yes, I have to work on my own healing and my own purpose, and how do I want to lead a life from this point on. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of big thoughts. I can't say I have the answers to all of them, but that's my intention anyways, is to just try to optimize not just my physical being, but also my purpose, what that's going to look like and what I might be able to achieve. Because I can tell you that a year ago, I had no idea that I was going to be sitting in this place, having had surgery that has been felt like a pipe dream for several years. For people who've known me for a long time, you'll know that this has been on my wish list of something that I wanted to do. And here I am. And I'm still kind of surprised and amazed that a year ago I didn't even have a glimpse that this was going to be where I would land. So it makes me so excited to think, where could the next year take me? And that doesn't mean it was an easy year, because it certainly wasn't, between the separation and moving out on my own and being an empty nester and all the things that I've learned to do independently on my own, look after my vehicle and, just regular life, really, when it changes so radically. So I keep that in mind. I think, wow, this has been such a incredible journey, and I'm not done. I still have goals and things I want to do, and I feel like anything is possible. And that's so crazy that just meeting a goal like this, and removing 8 pounds, what it's done for my life. And I'm still such a long way from the healing of it, and the processing of it, but it is fairly miraculous. So I hope to share that with you, that even the hard things teach us so many things about just perseverance and resilience and gratitude and having purpose and goals and dreams. So that's where I'm going to leave you, I think, today. I will, at the end here, I'll figure out how I'm going to share those pre-surgery bikini photos with the after photos. And yeah, I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into what the recovery has been like for me, and some of the ups and downs. And yeah, I'm wishing you a great week ahead, and thank you for coming and joining me today. I appreciate that you give me this time, and by all means, message me. I appreciate hearing from you and answering any questions that I can, and sharing what you want to know. All right,